Now, a voice that we hear from during the storm, Ron DeSantis, Republican governor of Florida, where, of course, the effects of Hurricane Helene were hit first. His state took it first. And you're feeling it too, Governor. I want to start, though, and I have to, because it just seems surreal that the President of the United States would say that anyone is happy and that they have enough at this point, and that he was confused about which storm we mean. Your reaction?
Well, Harris, we obviously got the initial impacts of the storm. It was a Category 4 storm, but we prepared for it. We had tens of thousands of utility workers ready to go. We were able to facilitate 2.4 million power restorations in record time after a major hurricane. But we also, between state and local, conducted thousands of rescue missions as soon as the storm happened. So then we were in a situation where we got through Friday of last week, come in Saturday morning, and we didn't have a demand for rescue. But you saw in Western North Carolina, you saw people that were very desperate. So I authorized air assets, National Guard, State Guard, Highway Patrol to go into Western North Carolina. So it created this odd circumstance that you have people there in Western North Carolina. And look, we've got a lot of Floridians that go there over the summer, so it wasn't like a random spot on the map for us. That's an important part of our state people where they go. But you have a situation where the first people that they come in contact with is some state guard unit from Florida and not any of the federal assets. So the reality is I don't think the federal assets were marshaled very quickly at all. But the lesson that I think people should take from this is one we learned in Florida long ago. We don't rely on FEMA to do any of that type of activity. We rely on FEMA to basically be a bank account. There's federal programs in place. We get our people qualified for individual assistance, reimbursement for some of the debris. But we take the matters into our own hands for the preparation and the rescue and response. And I just think it's sad that this has come to it. But I've got a lot of people up there now working. They're bringing food in. They're taking people back to safety. It is a really, really dire situation up there in the mountains. And the people that have been up there before, and I've been up there a number of times since I've been governor, and it's beautiful, but it is rugged. And if roads start blowing out or failing, you can't reach some of these communities unless you're putting in air assets, which we have been willing to do.
And look, part of that beauty is because it is so inaccessible. It has preserved the nature there, and I've seen it. I lived in that state more than once in my lifetime, North Carolina in particular. It is. But where the president was, and I want, you've shown so much leadership, and your experience with the storm type of situation really shines. And you see Governor Brian Kemp of Georgia, and you see others. You're having to do a lot of this on your own. So when you hear the President of the United States say that he doesn't, first of all, know which storm we're talking about as journalists when we ask about it, and then also that people are happy with what he's done, what is your reaction, Governor?
Well, I can tell you in Western North Carolina, the reports I'm getting, that's just not true. I mean, our guys are out there. People are desperate. They're very thankful that you have Florida assets that are there. I mean, we've got our Department of Transportation is up there. We brought 7,500 feet of temporary bridges. We're going to help repair bridges up there. Federal government's not doing any of that. But the reality is you just cannot, the federal bureaucracy, it's just not going to do the trick in these situations. And so we were able to do it. Interesting, Harris, in Florida, we conducted thousands of rescue missions as soon as the storm hit, a lot of it local, some joint, state and local, and other state. And all of those missions were successful. We did have fatalities, but the people that were in dire straits that needed help, they got rescued and brought to safety.
And now you're able to help other states. I mean, and they really need it. I was on the radio with a station this morning for quite some time in North Carolina, and Governor, that it's grim. And they're finding their own way, not only to sustain, but to deal with the loss of life and to discover that on their own. I mean, it is heartbreaking. Look, this had a second layer until it seemed like late yesterday, and there was a collision point, again, with you at the center of it, unleashing the National Guard on a situation that really is the federal government's responsibility. a reprieve, at least for now. Dozens of ports during the port strike, which ended overnight, along the east and Gulf coasts have reopened after the dock workers union reached a tentative deal to suspend its strike. That temporary agreement offers a 62% wage hike over 6 years. The two sides will still have until January 15th to reach a full deal. So I would imagine, Governor, if that doesn't happen, this gives you a little bit of time, and we need that cooling off period. Biden could have done that before, but we're not done with this yet.
Well, Harris, I did an executive order to declare a state of emergency with respect to the ports because we can't have a situation where they are trying to cripple the economy and by extension cripple the ability of storm victims to be able to have the supplies that they need to be able to rebuild their homes and get back on their feet. So I authorized National Guard to be at our ports. They would have received cargo. They would have done whatever is necessary. Mm-hmm. I'm glad that subsequent to that they've decided that this was not a good idea to continue on this work stoppage. But we're going to be ready in January because, yes, we're going to get a lot of stuff done between now and then with respect to the storm. There's going to be a lot more that needs to be done. Mm-hmm. And I don't think you want to put those folks and make them pay the price because of a lack of leadership in Washington. So we were ready to do what needed to be done now. Fortunately, we're not going to have to do that in the short term, but we'll be ready in January as well. We are going to get the things to the people that need them. That should be true in Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, and all across the United States.
Tennessee, Virginia, South Carolina, so much. Governor, thank you for joining me in Focus today. And as you point out, Biden will still be in office until January 20th. So when this cooks back up potentially and they have to quiet this port strike deal permanently, hopefully, or what could look like permanence, the current administration will still have it for a few days. Governor Ron DeSantis, bless you and the states that you're helping, and of course, Florida.